Kashimo Hajime. It was an honor waiting for your battle. It was a shame that it ended so quickly. What's up, you guys? Open here, and here we are to talk about whether or not Kashimo Hajime was a violent disappointment, or whether or not he did just fine. In fact, even better than what was expected of him, or something in between. We got a lot to talk about, so I honestly don't want to waste too much time. Let's hop right into it. What's up, guys? I'm here. Fun fact, I have it on me, and I keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact is that Kashimo should have kept the staff on. I'm just saying, bro should have kept the staff on. He should have kept the staff on. And you may be wondering, Pencilman, why should he have kept the staff on? Because it was cool. That's it. There's no other reason, because the staff wouldn't have done anything. But Kashimo didn't do anything either, so it was entirely irrelevant. But of course, we're here to talk about Kashimo as a whole, not just his weapon-wielding preferences, and we got three main things I want to talk about. The number one thing I want to talk about: why are people disappointed in the first place? Why am I slightly disappointed in the first place? Why is that? Next thing I want to talk about, whether or not we should have expected anything different from what did end up happening at the crux of 238 and 237. And number three, whether or not it is rushed, bad writing, anything like that, or anything. We are going to talk about all of that. First things first, why do people care? I mean, he's just a random, right? Like, bro was introduced literally under 100 chapters ago. Kashimo Hajime gets revealed in chapter 158. For reference, the series is 238 chapters long. Kashimo's only been in the narrative for about 80 chapters. Not even half of it. Bro is irrelevant. Like, being completely real, on a narrative scale, if I were to start laying out characters on a chart, bro is like, at best, maybe upper mid tier. He may be with characters like Hikari, characters like Urume, characters like, I hate to say this, but characters like Yuki. Like, unfortunately, these characters are just not that important. Kashimo does not escape that bill. He had a very lofty goal, but that doesn't make him escape the bill. But even with that being the case, pushing the narrative aside, we know non-narrative important characters can become extremely popular overnight, in an instant. Some characters can be literally saved by their popularity. Look at major popular characters like Vegeta. But with that being the case, people had expectations for Kashimo because of how Kashimo was gassed up. Gege is one of the best, especially in New Gen, but I'd say nearly in general, one of the best at hyping up characters. And the reason I say that is because from the moment Kashimo Hajime was introduced, remember, we met the man as he was staring through the body of another sorcerer that he had just slain. Bro pulled up, posted up like this, staff on his shoulder like, these people, they're all too weak. Man, where's Sukuna, dog? Or Sukuna? Where's Sukuna, dog? I'm sick and tired of this mess. They're all funny. You know what, Kogane? How many points I got? I got 200 of them bad boys. You know, run it up. Give me something so I can see the information on every single player in this darn game, because I'm sick and tired of the fodder. We opened up with Kashimo not just slaughtering the opposition, not just being the only player, by the way, the only player with that excess amount of points, 200 whole beans, but also being a person who was set up so powerful that he was literally bored by the competition. No, I mean, some in JJK had shown similar cases, but guess who those some were? Satoru Gojo and Ryomen Sukuna were the only two characters, like, say that in asterisks, I'm not sure 100%, but at least in all their battles, they're the only ones who straight up expressed boredom. Gojo straight up pulled up to Jogo and was like, hate to say it, bro, you're weak. Sukuna pulled up on Jogo and was like, hey, bro, I hate to say it, but you are utterly pathetic. You cannot land a single hit on me. So Kashimo is already being put in an echelon that's being compared with these two strongest tier characters. And that naturally started to build hype. If bro's bored by the random competition, and he's slain, and once again, by our understanding of the coming games, he had to, in order to get 200 points, he had to slay 40 sorcerers, very specifically sorcerers. To remember, civilians are only 1 point. So unless you want to believe Kashimo was randomly going around stat padding civilians, even though he doesn't want anything but a challenge, he likely went around and executed 40 sorcerers, probably some modern day ones, some ancient ones, extremely powerful characters. Even average sorcerers are extremely dangerous. And Kashimo slaughtered 40 of them. And we were introduced to him looking through a body and changing the fundamental rules of the culling games, something whose rules had just been established. We had big reason to buy into the fact that, oh, cool, he about to be something devious. He didn't get a full build-up chapter like Higuruma did, but even still, on the introduction alone, people started to get hyped. And then, of course, you have him doing the whole world a favor. Bless this man's heart. He won my heart when he did this. He pulled up like this and was like, hey, what's good with you, dog? You escaped from Ueno Zoo? And he calls me confusing. I was like, how do you know that if you're a reincarnated sorcerer? He calls Panda confusion. He's like, how do you know that if you're a reincarnated sorcerer? And then he absolutely negative defense. Like, that fight is straight embarrassing. And I love it. He tore Panda limb from limb, quite literally. He took his arm off. It is wild. Kashimo took a character who admittedly was not strong. Don't get me wrong. Never. Even full power Panda. As much as I clown on the character, as much as I despise him, as much as I would annihilate him myself if I could add brains to the narrative, I would literally go up to him and I would show Kashimo how to really do it with some thunder and lightning. But regardless of all that, Panda, he wasn't like fodder. He did beat Mechamaru. And remember, Mechamaru has one of the most solid out-of-domain scaling feats ever, with what I believe a town-level blast, and Kashimo managed to defeat that Mechamaru. So, you know, Panda, he's I don't want to say he's like that, because he's really not. But Panda's not no slouch. He's not no nobody. Sure, he's just a panda, but still, you know, he's a relatively powerful character. So for him to get casually jobbed by Kashimo, revealing Kashimo has an electric cursed energy trait, revealing his ultimate final trump card that people have been waiting for ever since Panda was revealed to have 3 cores, the sister core coming out and about to do something crazy, revealing it was some sort of Triceratops hybrid monster. Everyone was ready for it to go off, only for it to get torn straight through the dome piece and for it to fall, and Kashimo so unperturbed, so indifferent, without a single hint of damage on him, pulling up and being like, hey, yo, bro, where's Sukuna? You know what? Come on, just tell me, dog. You ain't like this. That is once again Gege just building the hype behind this character, leveling him up, showing that he's really, really like that. And then the hype train don't stop there, because you have Hakari Kenji, the restless gambler, the monster and the beast. According to Yuta Kotsu himself, the not by Maki Zenin, I know, whatever, take this with a grain of salt, but regardless, we have Hakari Kenji, the restless gambler, pulling up on Hajime Kashimo, being like, hey, yo, what's good, y'all? How we doing? Got my first jackpot up. I got that cursed energy flowing through me. It's got me feeling some type of way. Let the music play. Hear what I got to say. And Hakari Kenji, the man with unlimited curse energy, auto RCT, so much juice and so much raw power that Yuta Kotsu, a special grade sorcerer, is like, hey, bro may have a little bit of more juice than me if he's on a roll, you know what I'm talking about? Hakari comes up, and Kashimo, upon running into this wall of a man, this immortal beast, this monster of monsters, simply looks at it and is like, neat! I like the cut of your jib. Let's do this. And proceeds to perform one of the best fights in the entire series. Like, don't get me wrong, in terms of an investment / writing level, Hakari versus Kashimo is even in my top 5. It's probably my top 5 still. I do like the character work that comes with both of those characters in that fight. But that's like oddly specific, and I'll talk about that on its own later date. But still, this is a battle that has layers of hype behind it. Kashimo has his own layers of hype. Hakari comes with his own layers of hype, and these 2 layers of hype clash, mix, and meld to create what is a lot of people's favorite battle in the entire series, just because of the insanity behind it, the use of the electricity powers, the use of the immortal man, and of course, it doesn't help that Kashimo just drops bars all throughout the entire battle. I'm sorry, the hardest quote to come from JJK, as a fan who does not have Hakari vs. Kashimo in my top 5 fight, well, maybe in my top 5 fights, but not as my top 1 fight, Turn up the music. This is a funeral for the living. Dog. Oh, I could just beat him when he's not immortal, but that's how losers think. Dog. He's just dropping bars. Straight heat, straight gas, nothing but hot liquid fire. Kashimo's just like that. He's literally just like that. And guess what? Bro, after running into every little aspect of trickery he could ever run into, from Hikari being immortal, to the house being rigged in his favor, to specifically not trying to attack him when he's not immortal, because he wants it to be a funeral for the living. Everything getting thrown over the water, taking advantage of the cursed spirits that exist in the water, then being knocked off the cursed spirits in the water, losing all of his cursed energy because of his cursed energy trait, tricking Hikari, and using the poison 4 from his cursed energy trait in order to poison Hikari to drown him into the water, and then being faced and slobbered on by Hikari under the water anyway after the RCT catches him off guard again, and then somebody saying, fine, whatever, let's have some fun, grabs Hikari by the wrist and detonates his arm, attempting to detonate his entire body, because he's just that down for it at this point. Bro gets up, drags himself out of the water, and is like, oh, sweet mother mercy, dog. We finally, oh, sweet God, he's still alive. And gets slobber knocked out. But, guess what? Hikari's down an arm. Bro can't open domain no more. He's done. Panda, reduced to this big. Done. And it's revealed throughout that entire encounter that Hikari didn't even get Kashimo to use his technique. In fact, Kashimo is so metal, so about that life, that when Hikari pulls up on him, he's like, alright, go ahead. Just give me a baddie. Here. I'll give you the weapon to do it. Just get rid of me. Get rid of me, dog. I mean, it's worthless. I ain't really here for this. I ain't really come here for all this. Just drop me, bro. Just drop me. I don't care. And Hikari's like, dude, really? Like, dude, you didn't even use your curse technique. And Kashimo's like, yeah, I didn't, because I only want to use it on Sukuna. And Hikari's like, I'll be real with you, dog. Yeah, I may have, like, pushed you to your limits, quote unquote. But, like, I don't even really feel like I won that fight. So, Kashimo's being gassed up by Hikari Kenshi managed to outplay the Restless Gambler in a way by taking away his domain option, the thing that allows him to enter his cheating house of instant immortality, does all that, and we get revealed that he didn't even use his curse technique. And remember, Gojo early on in the series says that a curse technique is 80% of a sorcerer's potential. The thing that you're born with, that's about 80% of what you can whip up. Hands down. So essentially, this is Kashimo telling us, yes, I wiped off-screen 40 sorcerers and was the strongest in my era without even using my technique. At like a fifth of my full potential, because I didn't want to use the other 80%, which is my curse technique. Yeah, I'm just like that. My curse energy manipulation is just that good. I know how to use my trait that well. The hype that is building behind this man is immaculate. Immaculate. And once again, we're building to this very big point. He wants to fight Sukuna. Only Sukuna. Sukuna this, Sukuna that. It's the only thing that fell out the man's mouth every single time he appeared. So we're building to. The character is fundamentally built around two things. Battle and Sukuna. And really, it's one thing. It's battle with Sukuna. The whole reason he resurrected was because the man wanted a good fight. So Genge, by doing this, is building up this narrative of, yes, Kashimo is going to fight Sukuna. One way or another, this battle has to happen. It is the entire point of the character. And naturally, by the point where Kashimo is introduced into the narrative, Sukuna has been established as a monster, a beast, a demon, someone who is only rivaled and maybe surpassed by Satoru Gojo, a character so strong that people outside the narrative, in the author itself, and characters inside the narrative, the main villain, Kenjaku, have both admitted he's hard to deal with. I'm just going to put him in a box. I do not want to deal with him anymore. That's how powerful Sukuna has been gassed up to be, has been shown to be, manhandling other special grade curses like their children and babies with their own abilities. And Kashimo Hajime wants to fight this man. So there's expectations built through the roof, through it. Insanity. People really, really, really want to see this fight. And then we get Kashimo in the background for a while. He's very much being used as something to prop up everything that's happening in the narrative. Up, we got Kashimo on our side, you know things are getting serious. Sukuna's about to be a threat. Up, Kashimo's the one commentating on the level of prowess that Sukuna has with his Curse Energy control, Curse Energy reinforcement. We already have Kashimo hyped up as a guy who's really, really good at Curse Energy control. And he's out here slopping off Sukuna from long range. Up, we have Kashimo not fighting first, even though he wanted to fight Sukuna first. He must be ready. He must be waiting. He's cooking. He still hasn't revealed his curse technique. We haven't even gotten a hint of it yet, outside of the electricity traits. So then it finally happens. Then we finally get to chapter 236. And let me quote this directly. Let me quote this scrumdiddlyumptious bar directly. Because once again, Kashimo has some of the most consistently hitting bars this side of the Mississippi. I ain't even gonna play with you. He's just like that when it comes to the bars. Let me hit you with this. We got all these different characters mourning, sad, despairing at the fact that Satoru Gojo has fallen. Yet what do we get at the end of chapter 236? Allow me to read it properly with you. Hold on, let me take a sip so my narrator voice is nice and proper. Without taking any time to mourn the death of Satoru Gojo, soaring towards the battlefield was the god of lightning, Hajime Kashimo. Bro! That wasn't even a bar from himself. That was a bar the narrator was giving him. Bro's being called a god. He was the strongest of his era. He off-screened 40 sorcerers. He took a character stated stronger than Yudo Kotsu, a special grade, to an extreme high diff fight that beyond Yudo Kotsu level warrior didn't even believe he won, all with only 20% of his potential, because 80% is locked behind a curse technique he refuses to use. That's all built into the battle with Sukuna, and we're finally here. Chapter 236 ends with the battle beginning because Kashimo's rushing for it. If you're wondering, I spun that whole little narrative just to explain why people were hyped. Even though Kashimo wasn't that important narratively. Even though Kashimo did not seem like a character that was going to get much. Even though Kashimo was a character who disappeared for long chunks of the narrative, even after his introduction. I'd say you could probably take all of Kashimo Hajime's total screen time and chalk it up to like maybe 12 chapters at most in his around 130 chapter existence. You can do all that. But the reason people were so hyped was because of all that. Because the background, because of this behind the character. And obviously, within 238, we have his fate. Off-screened. Off-screened. After waiting so long to reveal his technique, he lands a total. Allow me to count the amount of hits that Kashimo Hajime lands on Ryomen Sukuna, while Ryomen Sukuna is weakened in a 15-year-old's body. He lands approximately one hit, then another hit, a two-piece combo for the free, after the technique release, Mythical Beast Amber. And then he lands one more hit with the loud sonic scream that, once again, does very little to no damage. Notably, the first two punches don't even really do any damage to this heavily fatigued, barely any RCT, barely any CE Sukuna. And then at the third mystical magical scream hit, all Sukuna says is, that was loud. And we see that Sukuna gets one more hit on. 4. Now let's be generous to Kashimo and say he got 5 with this final bolt. Let's say that did hit Sukuna. We don't really see if it does, but let's say it does for his sake. Y'all, I can count the amount of hits that this character who got over, let's say 130 chapters, not that long. He was reduced to 158. My math was awful on that. I think about 80 chapters. But he lasted 80 chapters, was built up out the wazoo, and he landed a total of 5 hits on Sukuna. He does not hit him again. The moment Sukuna reincarnates into his true form, he does not land a single hit. And I'm not talking about Sukuna, I'm talking about Kashimo. He does absolutely nothing. Notably, the narrator was slopping Kashimo off all throughout 237, explaining the power of the technique, explaining everything. But what does Kashimo Hajime this insane next level character, this character who's brawling with people who are beyond special grade tier. You have, well, not beyond special grade tier, but above special grades. Who is this character who has the only non-domain can't miss attack in the entire series in his lightning bolt? Who is this character who is renowned as the strongest in his era? Who was it that this character, who has their entire character fundamentally built around battling this one individual named Ryomen Sukuna, what does this character achieve? Nothing. Nothing at all. He fails completely. The only thing he does is get Sukuna to incarnate into his original forearm state, but it's likely he would have done that anyway. He does little to no damage. Fails to land his can't miss attack and proceeds to be off screen after all that. What was it all for? What was it all for? We had so much investment in this character. So much time was spent explaining why this character was Himothy. So Himothy indeed. But somehow, the character who gets a more extended fight against the King of Curses is one that was introduced the moment they appeared. Yorozu. Yorozu had a, let me double check this before I misstate anything, because, I have made mistakes before, so feel free to correct me if I make any mistakes in this video and make another mistake again. But let me double check. I believe Yorozu had a 4 to 5 chapter fight with Sukuna. So let me double check. They meet at the end of 216, so I won't count that as the start of the battle, as they do not immediately begin battling. 217 is a fight, 218 is a fight, 219 is a fight, and I believe it ends there. Fight ends in 219. So, Yorozu, a character who was introduced in Tsurugi's body, literally, I believe a character who was introduced and executed within a little over a month, or maybe 2 months. Yes, the twist here at the end of 211, Yorozu is introduced as a character, not name drop by the way, simply introduced in 211 and falls by 219. A character with 8 chapters, a month worth of chapters, and 0 buildup, other than the fact that maybe a sorcerer incarnated in Tsurugi, another non-character, by the way, got a 3-fold fight with numerous named abilities, numerous narrator statements, numerous hype, landed actual hits on a holding back Sukuna. Admittedly a 15-finger one, but that's the case. That character got more than Hajime Kashimo, a character who's existed in the narrative for 8 chapters. Multiple years. Has one of the best fights in the entire series. Hajime Kashimo fell just like that. Also a fight than Yorozu. Now, don't get me wrong. Yorozu may be a fan favorite character, but at least from my slight understanding of the fandom up to this point, no one really liked Yorozu. I even think the Tsurugi fans like Yorozu. And I think in fact, the Tsurugi fans hate Yorozu the most, because obviously, erase Tsurugi. Made her a non-character by proxy. So that character got more than Kashimo Hajime did in a battle against Sukuna. You even got to see a domain from her. We arguably even got to see a maximum in the True Spear. Multiple names attacks. Name bug armor, new designs, all that fantastic stuff. Kashimo got nothing. Nothing at all. Not a single hit with this, I waited 400 years to battle you curse technique. It was worthless. All that hype, all that investment, it was pointless. All that buildup, it was pointless. It was worthless. But obviously, the real question is, should we have expected anything more? Should we really have? Kashimo fans. If you made it all the way to this point in the video, Kashimo fans, I gotta ask you, did you really expect anything more? I've been playing up a part. I love Kashimo. He is probably within my top 10 favorite characters and has one of literally top 3 favorite designs in the entire series. And with the 3-eyed thunder god form, he may even be like straight up top 1 favorite designs, in terms of sorcerers at least. But then again, like, 15-figure Maguna with the cloak and Maharaga's wheel above the head is such a chef's kiss design. But you're looking at a guy, and by a guy I mean me, not just with a pencil, but a guy who very clearly, you can put it in your YouTube search boxes, Kashimo Hajime versus Sukuna. Admittedly, the video does not pop up, but I made a video talking wholeheartedly about why I believe Kashimo never stood a chance. Ever stood a chance. The video is titled Kashimo Hajime versus Ryomen Sukuna, and why Kashimo's destined to lose. I never believed bro was gonna win. I didn't believe none of that mess. None of it. There's no way. There's no way. I didn't even think he would beat 15 finger. Being completely real with you. Not to talk 20. 20 beans? 20 fingers? Come on, man. There's no way. No way at all. So really, we shouldn't have expected anything more. And I know it sounds so crazy, right? With all the hype, all the build-up, all the time we spent on this character, why wouldn't we expect more? Why wouldn't we want more from this character that we wanted to see for so long? We were waiting to see his curse technique for literal years. For perspective, let me see. When was Kashimo introduced? In 158. When did 158 come out? Chapter 158. Take me to the wiki, Googler. Take me to the wiki. Oh, shoot. The wiki article was updated in 2021. This premiered in Weekly Shonen Jump on September 13th, 2021. Dog, it's literally been 2 years since this character debuted. We've been waiting for a hot minute. Why wouldn't we expect more? I kind of say the same thing about Ryomen Sukuna, especially 20-finger Ryomen Sukuna. It was long since established that no character should stand a chance against that man. Not a single one. Even the strongest from other eras. Satoru Gojo was the strongest. We saw him lose. We saw him lose to Maguna. Maguna. Not to talk of 20-finger Sukuna. Maguna. He lost that. Satoru Gojo was pulling things out of behind off 4 black flashes, and he still lost. What do we think? Who has more build-up? Who was more important? Who likely had a more higher chance of beating Sukuna? Satoru Gojo, a character who on numerous statements inside and outside the narrative has been declared the strongest, either A, in the modern era in the narrative, or just the strongest character in the manga and extra materials, and from Gege's interviews, who logically had more build-up to win to Sukuna, and still lost. Gojo. So unfortunately, as much hype that was behind Kashimo, as much hype that was behind the battle that was going to come with Kashimo, which would be the battle against Sukuna, this fight that was meant to reveal his curse technique and give everything it had to offer, it was destined to end this way. It was never in Kashimo's cards to win, for he never stood a chance to begin with. It was his fate as a character who was at best in the upper mid-tier. A character who at best has been around for not even 100 chapters, not even 90. Bro was destined to lose. But of course, just because someone's destined to lose, just because someone has to lose for plot, just because someone has to lose in one way, shape, or form, does not mean we cannot talk about the execution of the loss. And whether or not that is good writing or not. And whether or not it was a waste to burn all that time on a character who didn't even last 2 whole chapters. Let's talk about it. Do I think Kashimo's execution being off screen and him not showing us anything, like realistically, we got not a single name attack. Not one named attack. And what? We had some statements about how he controls electromagnetic properties, and we got some x-ray eyes, and I guess a pew-pew from his hands. We got the traditional lightning bolt, and he got some claws. Ooh, scary. That feels like a waste, I will admit. 80% of his potential is locked behind it. And I'd still say the bolt's the strongest thing in his arsenal. I don't know. Seemed pretty confident it was about to hit Maguna. I don't know. It's the only thing that is described as a can't miss attack despite him having electromagnetic waves. I don't know. Seems like the curse technique in of itself was rather underwhelming. But of course, it's going up against Ryomen Sukuna. If it's not the Limitless and the Six Eyes, it's going to be underwhelming. If it's not Comedian, it's going to fall immediately. So, in terms of logical writing-wise, if I'm Gege, right? Let's say I am. I don't have anything that could remotely make me look like a cat. So I don't know. Just imagine I have one big old eye and two cat ears. If I'm Gege, right? And I'm trying to keep a pattern that I've established throughout the entire series up to this point. That each character has a certain level of weight to them in the narrative. And each character has tiers within those weight tiers. Sukuna is obviously one of my most major villains. I introduced him all the way back in chapter 1. Obviously, he's got to be important. Undeniably. So what's the best way that I can make this character feel important and powerful, even if they've lost, even if they've taken damage, all that? How can I make him do it? Well, if I'm Gege, what I would do is I would have Sukuna be extremely dominant throughout the narrative, and I would specifically have him beat extremely powerful characters, especially in disrespectful fashions, just to not only hype up the character in terms of its character, but also hype up the character in terms of its raw power and power scaling. And you can see that Gege took this approach with Sukuna throughout the entire plot. Like, Sukuna has a jobber fight at the very start of the series when he's first introduced, which is that big curse that was giving Megumi and Yuji trouble. He simply one-shots it, tears it apart. Then he proceeds to go into the real fight against Satoru Gojo and loses, quote-unquote. The extended battle between One Finger Sukuna and Gojo is unknown, but presumably Gojo would win if he can go relative with 20 Finger. But we don't get to see Sukuna use domain or anything like that. That second battle is very much on shaky pretenses. Then, of course, we have Sukuna's next major battle against the Finger Bearer, something that was able to casually dominate Yuji and put up trouble for anybody and everybody as it's one of his own fingers. However, he proceeds to absolutely low diff and nigh on off-screen it, just to once again build this raw level of power that Sukuna is supposed to have. And then, of course, he battles against Megumi and then tears the heart out in order to get the binding vow set up with Yuji so he could get out of Yuji eventually. Then, of course, we don't see Sukuna for quite a long while after that. Once Yuji is resurrected, we go into Shibuya. And with Shibuya, we have the jobber fight and then the real fight. Once again, we have a Jogo, an extremely powerful character with a whole bunch of hype behind it, an unregistered speaking special breed with so much amazing power they can literally call meteors from the heavens. But to Sukuna, the king of curses, what is a god of lava to a king of curses? And obviously 15 Finger Sukuna wipes Jogo easily, dominates the fire cursed spirit with his own fire. And of course, 15 Finger Sukuna goes on to have a real fight with Mahoraga, which isn't even a real fight. As you can see, Sukuna is playing around the entire time. There's not a single care on his mind, and he's simply experimenting with Mahoraga to realize what it can do for later. What it can do as a mouse tool to help us later. And he ends up wiping it anyway. Beats it again. And of course, once again, the pattern ever continues. We have another incarnation of Sukuna with 15 Finger Maguna. And 15 Finger Maguna goes absolutely buku bonkers on anybody and everybody. Pre-bath, he has the jobber fight, which is against Angel, tricks Angel, spits the arm out, goes crazy, then has the real fight against Yuji and Maki, and proceeds to dominate the both of them at the same time. And note, these characters are once again extremely powerful. Maki is equivalent to Toji Zenin, who was an extremely powerful character in of his own right and has his own fantastical line of scaling that goes to infinity and beyond that. For the sake of conciseness, I will not compliment or comment on in this video, because if you read JJK, you know how powerful Toji is by proxy. Maki, his equal, are, and liberated Yuji, another extremely powerful individual who had just gotten a massive amp. He toys with both of them after jobbing Hana / Angel, showing a level of dominance once again, the raw level of power that Sukuna has at his disposal. And of course, we have post-Bath Sukuna, who has once again a jobber fight and a real fight. The jobber is unfortunately Ryu Ishigori, a character who is able to go relative with special grades, like Yuta Kotsu, a character who, with his output, is stated to be stronger than Yuta Kotsu, even if Yuta were to use a max output blast, which we literally see. This character, who is extremely powerful, is stated to have the greatest level of curse energy output, not just in the culling games, but in history, which should ironically include the original 20-finger Sukuna, gets absolutely low diffed. Jobbed. A negative diffed by 15-finger post-bath Maguna. And then obviously he dominates Yorozu with Megami's technique alone. Not actually even using his not main technique, by the way. The power of Sukuna is very specifically being established in this jobber fight, real fight format. Jobber fight, real fight format. Jobber fight, real fight format. So if I'm Gege and I'm writing, what have I done up to this point? I've built up other characters just so they can job for Sukuna. The entire point. Heck, the only fight that does not have a jobber variation into real wombo combo is 20-finger Maguna. And look what happened. Look exactly what happened to 20-finger Maguna the moment he did not have a proper jobber fight before his real fight. The man, to this day apparently, as I see consistently, is called a fraud, a 10 Shadows merchant, a milkman, an orphan. He needed Daddy Raga and Mamito. Like, dog. He was clowned on for the fact that he didn't have a jobber fight into the real fight. So, how does Gege rectify this? How does Gege build back up the hype of Sukuna after Gojo Satoru, the other strongest character in the series, put up such a good fight against them that it kind of shot a good chunk of the fandom's faith in him? Minus the Sukuna fans who were breaking it down after Sukuna finally won. Oh, well, who's this? Hajime Kashimo? A character who's been in the narrative for upwards of 80 chapters and who I've built up as this extremely powerful individual who wants to fight. How convenient, Ryumen Sukuna. Wow. If only I had a way to make it so that true form Sukuna, a character who has yet to properly appear in the narrative outside of minor flashbacks and mentions from other characters, if only I had a character that I could sacrifice to make this character seem so unbelievably dominant and powerful in such a quick and quick-minded fashion that would strike fear and concern into the hearts of everybody who reads the manga weekly. Oh, I know what I can do. I can use this character who's supposedly only been using 20% of their potential to become one of the strongest characters in the entire series and job them for true form Sukuna before Sukuna's real fight, which is likely coming up next. So, on a writing level, despite me agreeing that Kashimo should technically have done more, that Kashimo should have at least gotten a maximum or domain or something, unfortunately, it kind of makes sense why he didn't. It kind of makes sense why he got low diff. On a writing level, giving Kashimo more than a chapter and a half worth of combat would undermine true form 20-finger Sukuna. It would, ironically enough, contradict the build-up to this other major antagonist. It would make this series worse, in a way, because it would undermine how powerful 20-finger Sukuna is supposed to be. So ultimately, despite Kashimo having writing and support and background and hype and fan base praise and all that of his own, I can't really chalk up Kashimo getting a chapter and a half and doing nothing with the full 100% of his potential as bad writing. Because I see where Gege's going with it and I see why Gege did it. So in my opinion, it isn't bad writing. But allow me to take my writing hat off. Allow me to take all logical pre-consensus off and just tell you how I feel about it. I don't like it. At the end of the day, I don't like it. I understand. It makes sense perfectly for the narrative. I understand the point why Kashimo was introduced as simply a long-term jobber. I like how Gege built up Kashimo just to cut him down so quickly. I understand all that. It all makes perfect sense. It's wonderful. It's great. I don't like it, though. I wanted to see a domain. Kashimo's a really cool character. One of my favorite designs in the entire series. The smoke demon of JJK, even more than characters like Satoru Gojo and Ryumen Sukuna. Bro has been a character that I've loved since his introduction, and he is a fan-wide favorite. So him not getting a domain, him not getting a maximum, him not getting a single name technique, him not landing anything, Sure, it doesn't make sense within the context of the story. It doesn't even make sense for Kashimo to have a domain, being completely honest with you. Think about it. Bro has used his technique maybe twice in his life, if that. Twice in his 2 lives. One time, the original time, if he ever did use it in his first life, considering it immediately breaks down his body and drops him, and bro doesn't have any RCT to recover from that. So this is like the first time he used this technique. So writing-wise, it actually wouldn't make sense for him to have a domain, since the domain should come from the refinement and understanding one's technique. But if he barely understands it, because he's never used it that much, makes sense why he doesn't have a domain. Same thing with the maximum. Maximum should be the refinement and ultimate level of technique that Kashimo probably wouldn't have access to. I get the writing. I don't like it though. I wanted to see more. I just wanted. Because I like Kashimo. I think Kashimo's cool. I think he's great. I love that character. And don't get me wrong, the writing that accompanies his quick execution, the explanation and understanding that he gains, perfect. In fact, Kashimo wanted to fight Sukuna. He never wanted to beat Sukuna. Kashimo got exactly what he wanted. He got that mountain. He got that flower that he could finally admire. He got everything he could have desired from the battle. Kashimo's happy. You can even see by how he smiles in the afterlife during 238. He's like, yeah, you know, I lived a good life. Now that you've clarified everything for me, now that I understand the meaning of strength, now that you've showed me the mercy that I showed countless other people by meeting me, taking me serious, and executing me, taking my life instead of leaving me to suffer with my failure, yeah, dude, you gave me happiness in a way that I could have never experienced happiness before, and I never will again, but at least I got to experience that happiness at least once. Kashimo's character is resolved. He's happy. The writing's fine. In fact, dare I say the writing's good. The use of counterbuilding into the narrative, the abilities of one character to job for another character, it's good writing. Admittedly, taking 80 chapters to build up a character just to job them, that's some dedication. You don't really do that. The only other major example I can think of that off the top of my dome is whenever a new arc antagonist comes in low diffs the previous arc antagonist, or a new arc protagonist comes in low diffs the previous arc antagonist. The main 2 examples I'm thinking of is Future Trunks coming in and jobbing Mecha Frieza, and the other example is from Bleach. I'm not sure if that's a spoiler, so I'm going to hold off on that. But with that being the case, it's fine. It's good writing. It makes the character happy. I should be happy that the character's happy. I should be happy that the writing makes sense. All that is beautiful, but if I'm being honest with you, yes, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. Because I wanted more. I wanted more. Call me greedy. Call me wrong. Call me incorrect for desiring more. But it's how I feel. I just want to be honest with y'all. I wish we could have gotten more of Hajime Kashimo. I wish his destiny was not laid out from the moment he was introduced and declared that he wanted to fight the King of Curses. I wish Sukuna would have held back just a little bit more so we could see just a little bit more what Kashimo Hajime had to offer. But ultimately, in the scheme of the narrative, it's not bad writing. It does not contradict any character stuff, and the dominance that Sukuna displayed is, if anything, necessary for the character to gain back and appreciate the respect that he should have. So ultimately, I'm disappointed, but I'm not mad. However, that's what I think. Please see what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. Each support for as low as $1 a month. You can exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dago the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Wakanda Plays, Red Wolf 4765, and Burp Skills. I'd like to give another very big thank you to our $5 patrons, Sean, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, and Demex LND. And I'd like to give a fat, hefty thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, and Idemokami. And I'd like to give another hefty, thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. And another big fat scrumdiddlyumptious thank you to our $25 patrons, Igneal and Calvin Elder.